afternoon to everybody in Facebook world and everyone joining us on YouTube. I'm hoping that we have a whole bunch of people from around Albuquerque and around the country and hopefully around the world. We're really excited. This is going to be our first of 5 live tea events. Albuquerque Sister Cities is hosting today, and maybe some of you don't know too much about us, but here in Albuquerque, we have 10 sister cities around the world. And today we're really excited to be bringing on our chair committee, our committee chair from Rehovot, Israel, Malcolm. Say hi, Malcolm.
Howdy, shalom.
And our committee chair from China, Lynn. Say hi, Lynn.
Hi.
So I'm going to hand it over to Malcolm. He's going to get us started with a really awesome presentation on Rehovot.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm really pleased to be able to talk to you about the Albuquerque Rehovot Sister City program. I and my wife, Leora Siegel, are co-chairs of this. The agreement was signed between Albuquerque mayors Martin Chavez and Rehovot mayors Joshua Forech in 2008. Leora and I have been chairs since 2019. At that time, the Sister City Partnership was dormant and we began to rebuild it, but COVID-19 got in the way. Currently, we are revitalizing it through virtual activities online and hope to visit the city later in this year on an exploratory visit that could be followed by a full Sister City delegation in 2022. Hopefully some in the audience today will be interested in joining our committee. Next slide, please. And we're looking for the next slide. We're still working out the bugs on this kind of Sister City virtual tea, so we're hoping to get that next slide in a few seconds. And there it is. Great. So we're having a tea today, a virtual tea, but if we were meeting, what would we have that would be appropriate? So there's 3 items on the menu. Water, a pastry called hamantaschen, and hard liquor, preferably cheap hard liquor, known primarily for its alcoholic content. I'll explain the significance of all these today in the next 15 minutes. Next slide, please. First, a little about Rehovot from the web. Rehovot is located in the center of Israel, about 12 miles south of Tel Aviv. It's about 30 minutes away if there's no traffic. It was established as a moshav in 1890 by pioneers of the first Aliyah. The name Rehovot means wide spaces. It's from the Bible, Genesis 26:22. There's been a conflict between Arabs and Jews in that area since it was founded in 1913 over issues of land ownership. Today, the population of Rehovot itself is about 132,000. The larger Rehovot area, there's about 340,000. The population is about 98% Jewish, and ethnicity is primarily Russian, Yemenite, Ethiopian, and modern Orthodox. There are 3 major universities and several smaller colleges in the area. There's a science park, the Tamar Science Park, which is high-tech and biotech. Tenuva Dairy, which is a major corporation in Israel, is there, as well as Feldman Ice Cream. The government today is led by Mayor Rachamim Malul, and we've been talking to the deputy mayor, Yaniv Markovitz. And as I said, it was founded, the relationship as a sister city was established in 2008. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the building that houses both the municipality and the Rehovot Mall. Now, in Israel, malls are commonly called canyons. The largest mall in Haifa is called the Grand Canyon. The obvious play on words with the American Grand Canyon. Next slide, please. Located in Rehovot is the Weizmann Institute of Science. It's considered one of the top 10 research institutes in the world. It's got a park-like campus, and that bulbous building you see is the particle accelerator for high-energy physics. Next slide, please. As part of the efforts to reestablish an active sister city program, we hope to connect with a number of research centers, academic centers that could partner with us with research and educational activities in Albuquerque. I'm an environmental scientist, and so I've listed the ones related to my professional expertise. But as we build up the committee, other centers may be relevant. So here I've listed the Dr. Scholl Center for Water and Climate, Sussman Center for Environmental Sciences, the Sustainability and Energy Research Initiative. Hebrew University has a branch campus in Rehovot. It's the Robert H. Smith Faculty of Agriculture, Food, and Environment. And there's a research center for agriculture, environment, and natural resources. What's shown here is the Clore Center Garden of Science. It has over 80 interactive exhibits, which help children understand the laws of natural sciences. It's an ecological educational facility that's designed as a geodesic dome. Exhibitions and lectures dedicated to ecology and climate problems are held there. The main science education institute in Rehovot is the Davidson Institute of Science Education. It's at the Weizmann Institute of Science. And we think there'd be a natural match between that institute and Albuquerque museums. So staff at Explora and the New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science are interested in working on this. Next slide, please. The Clore Garden of Science offers science exploration similar to Explora, except its exhibits are mainly located outside. Next slide, please. And the next slide, please. So in terms of organizations that we want to connect with in Albuquerque, I've listed a number of organizations that we've contacted, and they've expressed interest in such partnerships. So University of New Mexico, right now they have a grand challenge on sustainable water resources. In addition, we can probably find some connections with biomedical research. Sandia National Laboratories is another lab that we hope to connect to the Weizmann Institute. As I said, the Explorer Science Museum and the New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science is also good to connect with the Davidson Institute. We've been working with several Albuquerque schools in the Albuquerque area, including the Albuquerque Academy, the Bosque, Salam Academy, Lew Wallace Elementary School, and Congregation Albert. And we're going to connect these schools with schools in Israel, in Rehovot, through the Sister City program. In addition, Albuquerque has a large number of water tech companies, and we hope to make some connections with companies in Israel like Mikorot. And finally, the Sister City program has a partnership with the Water Resources Action Project, or called RAP, which I'll describe in more detail in a minute. Both Leora and I have been on the executive board of RAP since 2013, and I'm the current executive director. RAP is a US-based nonprofit organization. It was founded in 2009, and it works to improve public health in underserved communities, focusing on water issues. It operates in strict political and religious neutrality. Its main focus is to design, sponsor, and install rainwater harvesting systems at schools in Palestine and in Israel that need water. Often the municipality doesn't supply enough water to get them through the full school year. About 85% of water at a school goes to the restrooms. And so these rainwater harvesting systems can supply up to 75% of the water needs of the schools. A main mission of RAP is to connect Arab and Jewish students through related environmental education programs. So the students work on a common problem and get to know each other. RAP is part of a larger set of organizations, grassroots environmental organizations in the Middle East that stress people-to-people contacts. Next slide, please. So the RAP program begins with building a water harvesting system, and you can see up on the upper left-hand side. Next slide, please. You can see a number of barrels up in the upper left-hand side. This is the main technology that's used to store and collect the rainwater. Then we build an environmental education program around that. It involves measurements and monitoring the water system. Other kinds of environmental programs spin off. For example, water quality chemistry tests, studies of meteorology and how that relates to climate change. And there's a lot of effort on principles of public health, dealing with clean water. RAP sponsors science fairs, and we reach out into the community and provide educational resources for the community as well. Next slide, please. So that brings us really to that first element of the T, water. Currently, RAP is working in 3 schools in the Rehovot area: the Sarid School in Rehovot, the Hashita School in Rehovot, as well as the Al Zahara School in Lod. And if we could switch to the other view, we can see that map a little bit better. So Lod is located about 2 miles to the northeast of Rehovot. You can see it here on the map. It's a very different kind of city than Rehovot. Its population is about 77,000. It's a mixed Arab-Jewish working class population. And although it's a mixed community, it's one of the few mixed communities in Israel, there's very little contact between the Arab and Jewish populations. So the connection between Rehovot and Lod aligns very well with RAP's mission to connect Arab and Jewish students in educational activities. Next slide, please. So at the Sarid School in Rehovot, at a recent science fair, the students used the rainwater harvest system as the focal point of their investigations. They asked, how efficient is the system? So they did a number of measurements. They compared it to the amount of rainwater that was being present in the area, how much was being used by the system, how much was being used from the municipal system. And we're able to put together an award-winning science fair. Next slide, please. Amir Yechieli is our lead water engineer for RAP, and he's an internationally known expert, and he's a big proponent of rainwater harvesting. And we hope to create some strong connections between Amir and the rainwater harvesting community of Greater Albuquerque. Students in Israel are involved in building and monitoring the rainwater harvesting systems at their school. And here's some pictures from the system at the Hashita School in Rehovot. Next slide, please. And the next slide, please. At the Al Zahara School, and it's an Arabic language school in Lod, the students were involved in building the system, maintaining the system, and taking measurements to use it for their science education programs. Next slide, please. The students from Rehovot and the Lod schools were able to meet at a nearby agricultural center, the farm school. These were joint activities before the COVID-19 pandemic. In general, as I said, in Israel, Arab and Jewish students have very little contact. So this was a notable event, and we hope to continue these activities when the schools reopen and regain some normalcy. Next slide, please. Over the past few years, RAP has developed a number of online virtual tools to link the Arab and Jewish students with students in the United States. We've worked primarily with the Albuquerque Academy and the University of New Mexico. So we've had a Plant for Peace blog that was hosted by the Albuquerque Academy. Every year we run environmental photo contests involving students from 3 different schools. We produced an electronic book, the One Raindrop at a Time book, which describes environmental activities at Sir Bahir schools. We're looking at virtual reality as a way of connecting the students. And a lot of effort has been put into something called the RAP app, which is a web-based application that runs on cell phones, PCs, and tablets. And it's designed to facilitate Arabic, Hebrew, and English cross-cultural online encounters centered around environmental education. We see it as a tool in environmental peace building designed to inspire and increase individuals and communities' collaboration for peace. Next slide, please. The RAP Triplets program linked an Arab school in East Jerusalem, an environmental club on a Jewish kibbutz, and the Albuquerque Academy. We hope to build on this kind of program even during the COVID-19 pandemic, which prevents direct contact between residents of Albuquerque and Rehovot. If we can find an appropriate partner school in Albuquerque, we can create a triplets program involving the Sarid School in Rehovot and the Al Zahara School in Lod. Next slide, please. So what about the food for the international tea? So I volunteered to present at this tea event because the Jewish holiday of Purim is on Friday and Saturday of this week. I volunteered to present at this tea event because certain foods and customs are important for different holidays. And here it's hard liquor and a pastry called hamantashen. The holiday is associated with an ancient story from Persia involving 5 main characters. You can see there Vashti, Achashverosh, Esther, Mordechai, and Haman. It's a complicated plot, so I'll just hit some highlights in 5 acts. Act 1, Mordechai the Jew, incurs the wrath of Haman, who's the grand vizier to Ahasuerus, the king of Persia. He does this by refusing to bow down to Haman in accordance with dictates of Jewish law. In Act 2, Esther, the niece of Mordecai, becomes the queen of Persia after the former queen Vashti is exiled from the royal court. Mordecai instructs Esther to hide the fact that she's Jewish. Next slide, please. Act 3, Haman plots to wipe out the Jewish population of Persia. He convinces, through subterfuge, to convince the king to support this plan. In Act 4, Esther tells Mordecai of the plan. Mordecai tells Esther to reveal the fact that she's Jewish in order to save her people. Esther arranges a banquet. At the banquet, she tells the king that Haman plans to kill her people and thereby herself. And the king is pissed. Finally, in Act 5, Haman and his sons are hanged. The Jews rise up against those who would slaughter them, and a new holiday is born. In many cases, Purim follows sort of the standard pattern jokingly described for Jewish holidays, which is, they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. Next slide, please. So in religious terms, Purim is considered a minor Jewish holiday, but celebrated big time in Israel and in the diaspora with parades, parties, and religious services. And here you can see just some of the floats and there's a gay contingent, and a lot of the Orthodox Jews really celebrate this big time. Purim carnivals are held, next slide, please. Purim carnivals are held in communities all over the world, and this is a picture from a Purim carnival held in Lod. Next slide, please. Religious services involve the reading of the story of Purim from a scroll called the Megillah. Noisemakers are used to drown out the sound of the name of Haman when mentioned during the reading. They become a part of Jewish sacred art, as well as you can buy them at Walmart. Next slide, please. And as I said, like every Jewish holiday, there are specific foods that are important. Now, on the left, you see an exhibit from Trader Joe's. There's no Purim food there. The main Purim food is shown up in the upper right-hand corner, Hamantaschen, which is a pastry, and it's stuffed with fruits or nuts or chocolate. And basically, it recalls the three-pointed hat worn by Haman. You can see in the lower right hand. Next slide, please. Among religious communities, there's a custom to get so drunk that you can't tell the difference between the name of Mordecai and Haman. So hence our third ingredient for the international tea, hard liquor, chosen not for quality, but for quantity. Next slide, please. So in closing, I just wanted to talk about some of the post-COVID steps for our Sister City program with Rehovot. We're reestablishing connection with the municipality through the deputy mayor, and we want to connect Albuquerque schools for educational exchanges with RAP schools in Rehovot and Lod. We're looking for parties interested in rainwater harvesting in New Mexico to connect with our water engineer. And we want to connect Explora and the New Mexico Museum of Natural History with the Davidson Institute for Science Education. And finally, we feel there's lots of programs at UNM that would be interested in connecting with the Weizmann Institute. In 2021, Leora and I hope to go to Israel for a Water Resources Action Project pilgrimage and also connect with the people in Rehovot to lay the foundation for a Sister City trip delegation in 2022. Hopefully, this will work out. We don't know with COVID-19, but that's our current hope right now. So I'd like to thank you for listening in and hope you've learned something interesting about our Rehovot Sister City program. And let me turn it back to Anji.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. That was fascinating. It's really encouraging to see the work that's being done with students and about, our most important natural resource, which is of course water. So if we had an audience, I would have them clap, but I'm going to do a round of applause over myself.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. So next up we have Lin, and he's going to be talking to us about Lanzhou, China. It looks like there he is. Hi, Lin. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hello. Yes.
Whenever you're ready, Lynn, you are live and ready to go.
Okay. Please, my first, okay. Hi, welcome our members, friends, and anybody new to our Lanzhou table, the first series of 2021 International Tea Albuquerque Sister City Foundation. I'm glad that we can continue the annual party on the new virtual platform. While I cannot serve you the 3/4 tea of Lanzhou to you today, I would like to have a brief introduction of our program to new audience. Keep updating the community with our ongoing status, share the friendship experiences, and maintain connections and communications with our members and the public. Next slide, please. Our sister city, Lanzhou, is a capital of Gansu province, lies at the geographical center of China. Lanzhou is a city with a long history and rich culture. There are three major Chinese historical and geographic heritages make marks on this city and the people there. Next slide. The first, the Chinese ancestors have inhabited on the upper reaches of their mother river, the Yellow River, nearly 5,000 years ago. Next slide, please. With the mountains in the south and north of the city, the Yellow River flows from the east to the west by extending 152 kilometers in the city and forms spectacular and amazing scenery. Next slide. The second, Lanzhou, one of the major points on the ancient Silk Road, is a hub of land communications. It has played an important role in the trade and cultural exchange between the West and China. Next slide, please. Numerous soldiers, envoys, merchants, monks, and poets came and went from the west to the east and vice versa, passing through Lanzhou. Next slide, please. The third, the Great Wall of China ended in west in Gansu and extended to near area of Lanzhou. Next slide, please. On west of the Lanzhou, along the river to Yangdeng and Tianzhu, dot the wall, ruins of Han Dynasty are still existing. Next slide, please. At the present time, Lanzhou has total population of 3.8 million with different ethnic minorities and religions. Next slide, please. It is a rich agricultural region, an important industrial city, and a regional science research center in China. Next slide. Albuquerque and Lanzhou established a sister city relationship in 1996. One of the founders is our old chair and current co-chair, Dr. David Xi. Next slide, please. The mayor of two cities annually exchange Happy New Year greeting letters showing up here, and especially they had sympathy letters to each other during the pandemic in 2020. Next slide, please. For 24 years of their friendship, the two cities have maintained a wide variety of connections, exchanges, and cooperation between the people and the local governments. Next slide, please. Half a dozen official delegations of Lanzhou municipal and district governments visit our city to learn the city water conservation, urban development, senior citizen community management, and etc. There are serious efforts to explore economic and trade cooperation by Lanzhou business delegation and Albuquerque business community. Next slide, please. Yeah, the past 2 decades, our members had several opportunities by group visit to call on the beautiful Gold City and mingled with their people. Next slide, please. We witnessed its well-known 3 wines of the city: 1 river, the Yellow River, and 1 bowl of noodle, the Lanzhou ramen, and the 1 magazine, the Readers. Next slide, please. Yeah, University of New Mexico had a student recruiting workshops there. The head of Manaus School had been there signing agreement with a local school. A professor of UM Medical School ran a public health program over there, and individual Albuquerque artists went there to make artworks. On a different aspect, thanks to our sister city partner at Lanzhou and the organizer of Gansu International Fellowship Program, we had an opportunity to send 3 our members to attend the very rich cultural program in 2018 and 2019. Here, I would like to have Randy Trask, who is a president of the New Mexico Trade Alliance and one of the 3 attendees, talking about his 4 weeks experience of this program in 2019.
Hi there. Thank you, Lynn, so much for that introduction. And both you and Dr. Shi have done such a fantastic job maintaining that relationship with Lanzhou. And if it wasn't for that hard work that you put into that relationship, the experience of a lifetime that we were able to have as part of this fellowship wouldn't have been possible. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
As Lynn had mentioned, my name is Randy Trask. I'm with the New Mexico Trade Alliance. We are the organization that handles international trade and foreign relations for local government. And as part of the foreign relations side, we work with sister cities in handling any of the official government to government interaction that happens beyond all of the amazing cultural exchange with the residents of our cities. I'll just talk a little bit about our experience and not take up too much time, and kind of in a slideshow format. I'm not sure, I don't know if that's the first slide of the presentation. Are there a couple more behind that? Yeah, there's the first one, absolutely, cool. So as Lynn was mentioning, the Gansu International Fellowship Program is something that has been done for many years now out of the state government, provincial government, of which Lanzhou is the capital. And they extend a courtesy to Lanzhou to invite their sister cities to send participants as part of the provincial fellowship. And in the United States, us and Oklahoma City are the 2 sister cities that have the opportunity to send fellows. As Lynn had mentioned, there was a first fellow that went in 2018. Myself and Marcos Gonzalez, who's the deputy director of Economic Development for Bernalillo County, attended in 2019. The program is focused on young professionals in an effort to generate not just friendships, but even economic opportunities between Ganzhou and Lanzhou and all over the world. This picture here I took from the top of our hotel. That's the hotel we stayed at for 4 weeks. This is a paid fellowship paid for by the Ganzhou provincial government, which is a fantastic opportunity in itself to not have to have the burden of the cost, including airfare to get out there. So this was the view that we had from the hotel we stayed at for the 4 weeks we were there. You can see the Yellow River and just all the beautiful green space that was all over the place in Lanzhou, which is truly a really beautiful city. Next slide, please. It is a medium-sized, small to medium-sized Chinese city, which is many millions more than we have in Albuquerque. I love this picture because it just shows the contrast between the skyscrapers and some of these beautiful open spaces with traditional Chinese architecture. Next slide, please. What makes Ganzhou really unique is the large amount of Muslim population that exists there. And never in my life did I imagine that I would see a mosque, and you can tell, if you pay close attention to this picture, that this is a mosque, but built in such traditional Chinese architecture. It really the mix of cultures and influences of different cultures is very surprising, as I think most folks are more familiar with kind of the Beijing or southern Cantonese cultures within China. This is a totally different culture. Next, please. This was the kickoff to the fellowship. It's a very important program for Ganzhou provincial government. They take it very seriously. We had folks from probably 30 different countries that were participating, all under the age of 40. The program itself is focused on a month tour of Chinese history, language, culture, economy, and then also opportunities that could be established between Ganzhou and the countries where the fellows were representing. Next, please. Here was the part of the cohort. You can see I'm kind of in the back. You're looking at top right, and then Marcos Gonzalez is front bottom left. Next slide, please. On the cultural side of things, it was very impressive the way things were laid out. Here was a day where they brought in an expert and doctor in traditional Chinese medicine. Here he is teaching us about acupuncture, among other things. Next, please. This was a stop that we made to a traditional Chinese medicine expo, which was a giant trade show, but all focused on Chinese herbs and other traditional medicines. I didn't show the expo and show this picture because this particular area of China does not receive a lot of Western visitors, and so everywhere we went, we created a spectacle. So that wasn't unusual to have crowds form around us when we got off buses to take the tours that they graciously provided for us. Next, please. This was a part of an economic stop. This was a visit to a huge solar facility, a facility that includes wind, solar, with solar panels, but also that's a solar tower, which I believe at that time was one of only 5 active solar towers in the whole world, which is just a bunch of mirrors shining light onto the tower. It's so bright, almost burns like the sun. You can see it in this photo. Next, please. And of course, everybody's favorite is the opportunity to travel and see some of the tourist sites, which they definitely did not skimp out on as part of our education on this trip. This was the very beginning and oldest section of the Great Wall. and it's just fascinating to see the difference in architecture of the Great Wall, almost much more of what you would imagine how you would try and build a wall in New Mexico as opposed to the rest of China. A lot of kind of adobe style construction. And you can see that little, it looks like kind of a mountain behind us. That's the start of the Great Wall. Next, please. Just a photo from a section of the Great Wall, one of the areas that they've renovated and allowed tourists to visit. That's Marcos from the county there on the far right. Next, please. Some more images of the Great Wall. Next, please. This was, it's hard to make it out because the contrast of all of the rocks is kind of just a lot for the eye. But this is the Zhangye National Geopark, which is basically a rock forest, a forest full of hoodoos. Ganzhou reminded me so much of New Mexico and just the vast amount of landscapes and geography, and especially in an arid climate. It really is a beautiful location to check out some of the most amazing things that nature has to offer. You can see we're kind of looking down. Some of the fellows down there are raising their hands up in that next section. Next, please. Ganzhou also borders the Tibetan Autonomous Region. So we had the opportunity to go up and meet and tour some Tibetan communities. Here's a Tibetan woman in one of the villages we were visiting. Next, please. This was one of my favorite parts of the trip. I thought being in Albuquerque, higher than Denver, and with frequent trips higher around the state, that I was going to be immune to the altitude sickness, but elevation sickness. But I did get sick as we were kind of just hanging out around 13,500 feet for most of the time we were there. But it was just amazingly beautiful. Next, please. Another group photo in that Tibetan region. Next, please. Another area, and these are pictures that I took myself, just so you can appreciate how beautiful they are, that even an amateur cell phone photographer can take these types of pictures of such amazing landscapes. This is in the Dunhuang area, far northwestern part of the Ganzhou province. Just amazing desert with gigantic sand dunes and various oases and temples within the oases. It was just an incredible experience. Next, please. Here's another view, just walking along the top of some of the sand dunes, just to give you an idea of the scale of what this desert looks like. This is also the cultural, one of the major cultural centers of Ganzhou province. So a lot of arts and crafts, and it's really, they've made this area to kind of be the Santa Fe of the Santa Fe and Taos of Ganzhou. Next, please. Just to be sure that I mentioned the tea aspect and a little bit of the food aspect. In the Tibetan area, we were preparing yak butter tea, which is a traditional tea that's eaten by or drinking by the Tibetans. And I will also mention that it was also very common throughout all of Ganzhou that people drank tea from wheat, literally the grains that were then put with boiling water and sipped that way. A lot of, as I mentioned earlier, very different traits than other parts of China. A lot of yak meat consumed, a lot of areas that didn't serve pork, obviously because of the Muslim population that's there. Not a lot of rice, which was surprising to me. Your kind of go-tos with meals in Ganzhou would be potatoes and different types of things made from grains and wheat, but rice was kind of something extra you would have to ask for if you were interested, not a staple like you would find in other parts. Next, please. And of course, as the chubby guy, food is always my favorite part. I'm a very adventurous eater, and China never disappoints. So behind me is Jenny, who is our guide. She's the one who took care of us the whole time we were there. Just amazing hospitality. She does this program every year, so the next fellows that do it will I'm sure experience the same journey that we had with Jenny. That's me eating some. She was teaching me the proper way to eat chicken feet. Next slide, please. And then, as Lynn had mentioned, there is the very famous Lanzhou beef noodle soup. And we had the opportunity to go to a culinary school where they taught us how to pull the hand-pulled noodles for the soup. I was not very good at it at all, but it was a great experience. And I will mention, if you haven't seen it, if you're in Albuquerque, on Central, across from the university, there is now a place called Iron Horse Cafe, where they have Lanzhou beef noodle soup and hand pull the noodles themselves there. So if you want to experience it, it was pretty authentic. So you can check it out in Albuquerque on Central. Next, please. Me and Marcos just celebrating our culinary victories. Next, please. Marcos being taught how to make homemade dumplings, and he's kind of a little at-home chef back here too, so he was thrilled about that opportunity. And then next slide. And this was the end, our graduation photo with the fellows. I think one of the reasons why we wanted to share this with you is so that you can think about the young professionals in your life, folks that you think could benefit from this amazing experience. Unfortunately, last year and I think this year are going to be on hold because of the pandemic. But hopefully starting 2022, we are going to be working together with Lynn and Dr. Shi and kind of formalize an application process. And Lanzhou and Ganzhou have expressed an interest to try and see somebody from Albuquerque go every year. And so we'd like to really take advantage of that opportunity and formalize an application process. So keep that in the back of your mind and look out for when Sister City starts advertising for folks that are interested in that amazing fellowship. Thanks again for the opportunity to share our experience. Wouldn't have been possible without Sister Cities.
Hi, thank you, Randy. Thank you, Randy. I enjoy to watch your journey. I mean, in China, that's wonderful. Yeah, yeah. Everybody knows in 2020 is a very difficult year. We had a hard time to work out anything. However, fortunately, Melinda Modesty, a high school student of our Albuquerque Academy, took an initiative with her friends to start a cross-cultural art exchange program with students of Lanzhou. Now, Melinda will tell us her story.
Hi, everyone. So like Mr. Ye said, I'm Melinda Modescent, and I'm a senior at Albuquerque Academy this year. And today I will be talking about a project that I started a year and a half ago called the Cross-Cultural Art Exchange. So the 2019 to 2020 Art Exchange was between 6 high school students in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and 6 from Albuquerque sister city in Lanzhou, China. The 2020 to 2021 exchange will be between students from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Lusaka, Zambia. So in this project, students communicate every 2 weeks throughout the year to talk about subjects ranging from cultural events to current differences. And at the start of the project, each student is challenged to illustrate in half an art piece the defining differences and characteristics of their home city and what part of their culture they want to depict to a student living abroad. And they leave negative spaces for their counterpart to continue. Midway through the project, the art pieces are mailed to students of the other country, and the last half of the piece will be completed by the student of another culture. So this picture that's pulled up right now is a picture of the Albuquerque team that did this exchange in 2019 to 2020. Next slide. And this is a picture of the Lanzhou team that participated in the project. Next slide. So this sorry. So the next 3 slides after this one. Sorry. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, thank you. So the next 3 slides, including this one, show what the process was like when creating these pieces. And so this is a person who participated named Gabby Niemer from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And this was the half of her piece that she drew. And she finished this around February, and it was mailed during April, the end of April, to Lanzhou for someone else to finish. Next slide. This is another example, but this is Shen Zixuan from Lanzhou's painting, or actually black and white marker drawing of a Beijing opera singer. Next slide, please. And this is my half of the piece so far, and I drew a traditional meal with tamales and everything from Albuquerque. Next slide. So these pieces are the finished products of what they look like when we finished, which was around September 2020. And so this piece was done by Zhao Rende from Lanzhou, who drew the Silk Road and merchants on the Silk Road, and Ana Maria Perez from Albuquerque, who depicted the Sandia Mountains with cacti and yucca. Next slide. This piece was done by Leandra, who drew a traditional Chinese temple with a water brush and the Great Wall of China with dumplings and mountains in the background. And myself, and I drew a Jarabe dancer on Route 66 with some Native American textiles, roadrunners, cacti, yucca, all of that. Next slide. This piece was done by Li Jiayi from Lanzhou, and she depicted a panda, and she wrote it in English for us to show the cross-cultural aspect of it. And so when Andrew completed the other side, he decided to write Roadrunner in Chinese for the Lanzhou students. Next slide. This piece was completed by Gabby Niemer from Albuquerque, like I showed previously with the half completed piece. And to fill out the other side, Shen Zixuan from Lanzhou drew the Danxia landform, which is a very spectacular landform in the Gansu province. This piece was completed by Ana Maria Perez, and she drew a pueblo with luminarias for Christmas, and Leandra, from Lanzhou, who drew the Great Wall of China with some red lanterns to match the luminarias. Next slide. This piece was completed by Andrew Spears, and he drew southwestern animals, including rattlesnakes and black bears, while Zhao Rende drew a lot of Asiatic animals, including the panda, the pelican, and a snow leopard. Next slide. And this piece was also one of the half pieces that I showed before. And to complete the other side, William from Lanzhou painted a traditional hot pot with all kinds of cookies at the end. Next slide. This piece was also done by William, who illustrated a traditional lion, and Sarah Wong from Albuquerque, who drew a turkey because she thought that an eagle would be a little bit too typical for the United States. So when she was talking to me, she said that she wanted to do a turkey for Thanksgiving. Next slide. This piece was done by Shen Zixuan, and it was also the half piece of the opera singer. And Mackenzie Gerald from Albuquerque sketched George O'Keeffe in the Georgia O'Keeffe as the other side of the face, and try to do the southwestern backdrop of mountain ranges that was following Georgia O'Keeffe's style. Next slide. This piece was completed by Mackenzie Jarrell as well, and she drew many national monuments, including the Statue of Liberty and the U.S. Capitol, while Li Jiayi from Lanzhou painted national monuments such as the Pearl of the Orient and the Bird's Nest. Next slide. This piece was done by He Yitian from Lanzhou, who drew the Forbidden City, and Albuquerque Niemer, who depicted Independence Hall. And so to conclude, the purpose of this project was to show that the contrast between us is what creates something beautiful. And last year's exchange ended in September 2020, but this year's has just started and will be between Albuquerque and another one of its sister cities, which is Lusaka, Zambia. And I'm very excited to see how this one turns out. And thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you, Melinda. That's wonderful. Yeah, that people can see how the students mingle together, how the two different cultures, ideas meet together. So that's very nice. Thank you. Without our local citizen support, our Sister City program cannot be maintained and a success. We always have Chinese American Citizen Alliance, Albuquerque Lodge, to join our events and support our local activities. Albuquerque Chinese Happiness Dance Group has performed at our International Tea event to promote Chinese culture for a few years. Today, by their hard work with their virtual platform, they are contributing a beautiful fan dance to conclude our event.
一树红花照碧海，一团花叶出水来。珊瑚树红春常在，风波浪里把花开。哎呀哎呀，迎来这雾来盖。云里雾里放光
Thank you so much, presenters. That was incredible. It was so much more than I even expected, and I helped put this together. So next, to just conclude, I'm going to bring Alana. She's our social chair here for the Albuquerque Sister Cities, and she has just a little bit of information that she'd like to share with us before we close out today.
Hi, everyone. This is Alana, and I'm so excited that the presentation that we did today was received by so many people, and they really enjoyed it. It's a different platform than we're used to. We usually have a tea in a community center with tables set up, and everybody gets to come and try different foods and hear different things about the cities. But this is a new world and a new way, and hopefully we'll reach even more people this way. Please put on your calendar our next Sister Cities event, which will be March 21st, and that will feature our sister cities of Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, and Hualien, China. So we hope to see you back again on that date. Invite your friends to come. This is a free event, and I hope you enjoyed today, and I'm looking forward to continuing this and seeing you on March 21st.